You think she doesn't like you. But if you notice this, she's deeply thinking about you nonstop. Psychology tricks. Love doesn't always show itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in silence, fear, and distance. Let's get something straight. You believe she's not interested. You assume her distance means she doesn't care. You tell yourself that her silence is proof she's moved on. But what if that conclusion is completely wrong? What if the very behaviors you're using to convince yourself to walk away are the same behaviors that reveal she's thinking about you more than she wants to admit? Here's the uncomfortable truth most men never hear. When a woman is deeply affected by a man, when he gets under her skin and into her head, she doesn't always lean in. Sometimes she pulls back. And the stronger the feelings, the stronger the retreat. This is where most men fail. They assume attraction always looks warm, enthusiastic, obvious. They expect interest to chase them the way they would chase interest, but female psychology doesn't work that way. When a woman feels something real, her mind often goes into self-protection mode. She slows her responses. She becomes emotionally neutral. She stops initiating. She acts fine, casual, unbothered, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares too much. Attraction makes her feel exposed. It threatens her emotional control. It creates fear of rejection, of losing balance, of wanting someone more than she should. So her mind does something paradoxical. It tells her to create space, while she thinks about you constantly in private. This is what psychologists describe as defensive avoidance, pulling away on the surface while emotional intensity builds underneath. And this is where men misread everything. You see delayed replies and assume boredom. You see emotional distance and assume indifference. You see her acting normal and assume you meant nothing. So you back off, right when her mind is replaying your words, your presence, your energy, right when she's trying to figure you out. Here's the key insight. When a woman truly doesn't care, her behavior is effortless. When she does care deeply, her behavior becomes calculated. Coldness isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's restraint. And there are specific signs, clear patterns, that reveal when distance isn't disinterest, but inner conflict. Miss them, and you walk away too soon. Understand them, and everything suddenly makes sense. Because when a woman is trying not to think about you, but can't stop, her actions stop matching her feelings. And once you recognize that pattern, you'll never look at silence, space, or emotional pullback the same way again. Sign number 1. She watches you when she thinks you're not looking. Here's the truth most men never hear, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. When a woman watches you while believing you're not aware, that quiet behavior speaks louder than any flirtatious word she could ever say, because women don't study things that don't matter to them. They observe what their mind keeps returning to, and that is the first sign you must never ignore. Don't assume silence means lack of interest. Be precise, be calm, be aware. When she's genuinely thinking about you, she doesn't rush in for attention the way many men do. Instead, she watches how you move, how you react, who you talk to, and how you hold yourself when you're not performing for anyone, because female psychology is deeply rooted in observation rather than pursuit. You might notice it in a room full of people when her eyes drift toward you again and again, or when she seems to know where you are without turning her head, or when you feel that subtle awareness that someone is tracking your presence, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, deliberate one. That is not accidental. That is focus. And when you finally look back and she immediately looks away, don't mistake that moment for rejection. Don't dismiss it. That quick turn of the eyes isn't indifference. That is being caught mid-thought, mid-curiosity, mid-imagination. That is her mind briefly exposed before she closes the door again. You must understand this clearly. People don't look away from things they don't care about. They look away from things that matter enough to make them feel seen. This is where psychology tricks reveal what words never will, because attraction doesn't always announce itself loudly. Often it hides until it feels safe. In the digital world, the same pattern appears, just dressed differently. She views your story minutes after you post it, not because she has nothing better to do, but because your presence sits near the front of her mind. She likes an old photo you forgot about, which is not random scrolling, but intentional searching. She checks your profile quietly, assuming you won't notice, yet hoping, on some level, that you might. Don't underestimate this behavior. Be honest with yourself. Attention is not given freely, it is invested. And where her attention repeatedly goes, her thoughts follow, because the mind always chases what it finds emotionally stimulating. That is not coincidence. That is pattern. And here's the part most men miss entirely. When she's watching you in these subtle ways, she isn't just observing facts, she's creating meaning. She's imagining conversations that haven't happened yet. She's picturing moments that don't exist. She's mentally placing you into future scenarios, testing how you fit, how you feel, how you might show up. That is how to fall in love begins for many women, quietly, internally, long before any outward sign appears. Don't rush her. Don't force clarity too soon. Be steady. Be grounded. Let her imagination breathe, because imagination is where attachment grows. This isn't casual interest, and it certainly isn't boredom. It's focused curiosity turning into emotional investment. And female psychology shows that when a woman repeatedly thinks about someone without external pressure, the bond forms deeper and lasts longer. You must also recognize the responsibility this creates. Don't act needy. Don't over-explain. Don't chase attention that is already being given silently. Be consistent. Be authentic. Be present. That is what keeps her attention anchored rather than scattered. Psychology tricks aren't about manipulation. They're about understanding human behavior so you don't sabotage what's already unfolding. When you understand how to fall in love from a psychological perspective, you stop trying to impress and start allowing attraction to grow naturally. This is why men who remain calm, self-assured, and observant often leave a stronger impression than those who push for validation. Remember this, she is watching because she wants to understand you, and people only seek understanding when something feels important. That is the quiet power of attraction rooted in female psychology. And when you respect it instead of rushing it, you give it space to deepen. So don't doubt yourself when you notice these signs. Don't dismiss the subtle moments. Be aware, be patient, be real, because when her attention keeps returning to you again and again, her mind is already halfway there, and psychology tricks simply help you see what was happening all along. Sign number 2, she remembers small details you mentioned weeks ago. Sign number 2 is quiet, subtle, and powerful, and most men brush past it without realizing what it truly means. She remembers the small details you mentioned weeks ago, not the headline moments, not the dramatic stories, but the passing comments you barely remember saying yourself. And that is never accidental. You casually mentioned you had a presentation coming up. Nothing emotional, nothing heavy, just a throwaway line in conversation. And 2 weeks later, she asks how it went, calmly, naturally, as if it were obvious she would remember. You once told her about your favorite band in a relaxed moment. No emphasis, no repetition, and later she brings them up again like it's nothing, like it simply belongs in the flow of conversation. At first, you might tell yourself comforting stories. Okay, she's just being nice. She probably remembers things about everyone. Don't lie to yourself. Be honest. That is not how memory works for most people. Studies consistently show that most people forget close to 90% of what they hear within 24 hours, not because they don't care, but because the brain filters information ruthlessly. That is how it protects itself. Only what feels emotionally relevant gets stored. Everything else fades. That is the rule. So when she remembers details you never highlighted, details that don't benefit her directly, details that don't make you look impressive, that tells you something important. That tells you her mind has been replaying your conversations long after they ended. She isn't just listening, she's processing. She isn't just hearing, she's storing. She's building a mental file on you piece by piece, quietly, unconsciously, without even realizing she's doing it. Be clear about this. People remember what their mind keeps returning to. That is how attraction grows before it ever shows itself openly. And here's where it gets even more revealing, because the details she remembers are rarely strategic ones. It's not just your job title or your accomplishments. It's that you don't like olives. It's that your sister's name is Emma. It's that scar from a childhood bike accident you mentioned once in passing, almost as a joke, almost without thinking. Those details don't serve conversation, they serve connection. And when someone remembers them, it means your presence lingered after you were gone. Her brain subconsciously prioritized information about you over everything else competing for attention in her life. That's not effort, that's instinct. Don't underestimate how significant that is. Be grounded enough to see it for what it is. This is where being a high-value man matters, not because of status or performance, but because you're calm, consistent, and authentic enough that she doesn't feel the need to rush or protect herself. When a man carries steady masculine energy, it creates psychological safety, and safety is what allows memory to deepen instead of fade. That is how you attract women without chasing them. You must understand this. Attraction isn't built through grand gestures alone. It's built through repetition of thought. Every remembered detail is proof that you've occupied mental space when you weren't physically present. That is where emotional momentum begins. Don't sabotage this by calling it coincidence. Don't rush to define it. Be patient. Be observant. Let it unfold. When she brings up something you forgot you even shared, don't overreact and don't downplay it either. Acknowledge it calmly. Stay centered. That is what reinforces the image of a high-value man who is comfortable being noticed without demanding attention. Remember, she likely isn't doing this consciously. Her brain is simply responding to interest by organizing information around you. That's how attraction works beneath the surface. And when you understand this, you stop trying to impress and start allowing connection to grow naturally. This is masculine energy in its healthiest form, grounded, attentive, unforced. If you want to attract women who feel deeply rather than fleetingly, you must respect this process instead of interrupting it. Let her remember. Let her notice. Let her connect the dots at her own pace. Because when a woman remembers the smallest details about you weeks later, it's not politeness and it's not habit. That is her mind quietly choosing you again and again. And that choice, repeated over time, is far more powerful than any compliment she could ever give. And if this hit home, don't ignore it. Be decisive. Be present. Drop a comment right now that says, "I notice what others overlook." Like this video, subscribe for more sharp psychology insights, and remind yourself daily, when someone remembers the small details, it's not random, it's intention. Sign number 3. Her friends know about you and they act strange around you. Most men misread silence and assume disinterest, but experience teaches a sharper truth, and here is one of the clearest signals you can ever observe. When her friends already know who you are and start acting different around you, the game has changed. This is not coincidence. This is pattern. This is psychology in motion. Her friends mentioning your name casually, exchanging quick looks when you enter the room, smiling like they're holding a secret, teasing her just a little too precisely, or stopping themselves mid-sentence with, "Oh, so you're the guy from," is not random behavior. It is exposure. Women process attraction socially. They speak it out loud before they act on it. If you exist in her mind, you exist in her conversations. If you exist in her conversations, you exist in her inner world. That's how it works. Period. Marcus Aurelius said, "What we do now echoes in eternity." And in modern life, that echo often begins in private chats, group messages, and late-night conversations with trusted friends. If her friends recognize you without you having spent real time with them, understand this clearly. You have already been discussed, analyzed, and mentally replayed. You are not invisible. You are present. You are occupying mental space, and mental space is the most valuable territory there is. This is where Old Stoic wisdom applies perfectly. Never chase confirmation. Observe behavior. Stoicism win is not about forcing outcomes. It's about reading reality as it is. Her friends are mirrors. They reflect what she won't say yet. In today's world of endless distractions, attention is currency, and repeated attention is investment. If she invested enough attention to bring you into her inner circle conversations, that is not casual. That is deliberate. Seneca warned, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, and your preparation here is self-control. Do not rush, do not interrogate, do not seek validation. Maintain your iron mind, calm presence, steady posture. Let the signal speak for itself." Men who lose control at this stage destroy momentum. Men who stay centered allow attraction to mature. This is where modern men fail and seasoned men win. You don't need to impress her friends. You don't need to ask questions. You don't need to perform. You simply need to remain grounded, focused, and composed. That composure is rare. That composure is attractive. Repeat this to yourself. Attention reveals interest, repetition reveals priority, and social sharing reveals emotional engagement. This is not fantasy. This is psychology. This is human nature. When her friends smile knowingly, they are responding to a story they've already heard multiple times. When they tease her, it's because they've witnessed emotional investment. When they act like they know something you don't, it's because they do. And here is the advice that separates boys from men. Do not let this inflate your ego or rush your actions. Old Stoic wisdom teaches restraint before reward. Stoicism win comes from patience, not pressure. Hold your iron mind steady. Stay busy. Stay purposeful. Stay focused on your mission, your health, your craft, your legacy. Attraction deepens when a man does not abandon his center. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Master yourself here. Let the signal settle. Let curiosity grow. Let tension breathe. In modern life, where desperation is loud and discipline is silent, silence becomes strength. Remember this clearly and repeat it often. If her friends know about you, you are already important. If they act strange, something meaningful is forming. If you stay composed, you allow it to unfold naturally. This is how experienced men move. This is how momentum builds. This is how you win without force. This is how an iron mind shapes outcomes quietly, confidently, and decisively. Sign number 4, she initiates contact randomly, then disappears again. Sign number 4 is the one that keeps grown men staring at their phones like teenagers, because she reaches out at the most unexpected moment and then vanishes again. And this pattern feels confusing, even frustrating, but it is also one of the clearest signals that you are living rent-free in her mind. So don't rush to label it as mixed signals or emotional games. Be calm and stay curious, because what you are seeing is a classic human pattern explained by psychology tricks and rooted deeply in female psychology and how to fall in love. She sends a message out of nowhere, a funny meme, a random question she could have asked anyone but chose you. A simple, "This reminded me of you," that lands softly but hits hard. The exchange flows. It feels warm, natural, easy. Then silence. Hours turn into days, and your mind starts spinning. Don't do that. Don't assume you said something wrong. Don't replay every sentence. Don't chase. That is exactly the moment most men misunderstand what's really happening. She didn't disappear because the spark died. She disappeared because the spark burned too bright, too fast, and it startled her. She reached out because she could no longer ignore the thoughts of you popping up during her day, because your presence lingered in her mind when she least expected it, because something about you activated her emotions without asking for permission, and when she finally acted on that urge, fear stepped in right behind desire. That fear is not rejection. It is self-protection. Be clear on this. In female psychology, attraction often awakens vulnerability, and vulnerability feels risky, especially when the connection feels real instead of casual. So she pulls back, not to punish you, not to test you, but to regain a sense of balance inside herself, to prove to herself that she still has control over her emotions. And this push and pull dynamic is known as approach avoidance conflict, one of the most misunderstood psychology tricks when it comes to how to fall in love. She approaches because she's drawn to you, because something about you feels different, familiar, or exciting in a way she didn't plan for. And then she avoids because leaning in means admitting that you matter, and admitting that means opening the door to uncertainty, expectations, and emotional exposure. You must understand this clearly. Interest that comes and goes like this is not shallow interest, it is intense interest trying to manage itself. A woman who feels nothing does not reach out at all. A woman who feels a lot often does, then retreats to catch her breath. Don't label it inconsistency. Be patient intelligence. Be steady. That is what separates confidence from confusion. When you stay grounded instead of reactive, you become the safe emotional space her mind is searching for, while her heart races ahead of her comfort zone. This is where many men ruin the moment by over-texting, demanding clarity, or emotionally withdrawing to protect their ego. But you must resist that urge, because pressure collapses, attraction and silence with self-assurance strengthens it. When she disappears, don't punish her with coldness and don't reward the fear by chasing it away. Simply remain present, calm, and unchanged. That consistency sends a powerful message without a single extra word, and it aligns perfectly with the deeper layers of female psychology and the natural rhythm of how to fall in love. She needs time to reconcile what she feels with what she believes she can handle, and every time you show that you are not shaken by her momentary distance, you quietly become the emotional anchor her subconscious is testing for. This is not about manipulation. Be clear, it is about understanding human behavior and respecting emotional timing. The men who win in these moments are not the loudest or the most persistent. They are the ones who don't panic, don't overthink, and don't lose themselves trying to control the outcome. Remember this, her random message was not an accident. It was a leak from her inner world. Her disappearance is not the end of the story. It is the pause where her feelings reorganize themselves. Trust the process. Be grounded. Let attraction breathe. These psychology tricks are not about tricks at all. They are about insight, patience, and emotional maturity. And when you truly understand female psychology and how to fall in love, you stop reacting to silence and start recognizing it for what it often is, proof that you matter more than she expected. If you understood this sign, you're no longer guessing, chasing, or blaming yourself. You're seeing clearly. Most men never get here. They misread the silence, panic, and ruin the moment. Don't do that. Be the man who understands what's really happening beneath the surface. That is awareness. That is emotional control. That is power. If this message clicked for you, prove it to yourself and to the channel. Go to the comments and write this sentence exactly as it is. I recognize the pullback, and I stay calm because I know she's thinking about me. Sign number 5, she gets slightly different around you compared to others. Sign number 5 is subtle, quiet, and powerful, and it's the one most men overlook because it doesn't announce itself loudly. It whispers through small changes in behavior, so don't dismiss it and don't rush past it. Because when she gets slightly different around you compared to others, something real is happening beneath the surface. Her tone shifts, not dramatically, just enough to notice if you're paying attention. She laughs harder at your jokes, even the simple ones, not because they're suddenly funnier, but because emotion amplifies response. She fidgets more. She adjusts her hands. She shifts her posture. She guards herself just a little, choosing words more carefully, pausing before speaking, measuring reactions. These are not random habits. That is important. Be clear on this. These are stress responses, and stress in this context does not mean discomfort or dislike. It means emotional activation. It means you matter. It means her nervous system is responding to your presence in a way it does not respond to everyone else. People do not change their rhythm for people who are irrelevant. They do not build walls, even small ones, around people who don't touch something inside them. You must understand this distinction or you'll misread the entire situation. When a woman is bored, she is relaxed. When she is indifferent, she is smooth, predictable, almost effortless. But when she is emotionally affected, her body reacts before her mind catches up. That is biology, not drama. Her laughter becomes a little louder because emotion leaks out. Her movements become less controlled because awareness increases. Her guard goes up not because she fears you, but because she feels something she hasn't fully defined yet. Don't mistake that guardedness for rejection. Don't assume distance means disinterest. Be observant, not reactive. That is the mindset of a high-value man. This is where masculine energy quietly does its work. Masculine energy is not loud. It does not demand attention. It holds presence. It stays steady while others shift. When you notice her acting differently around you, don't confront it. Don't tease it. Don't ask for explanations. That kills the magic. Be grounded. Let her emotions move without trying to control them. That calm certainty is what allows you to attract women without forcing anything. A man who stays centered while a woman's emotions fluctuate signals safety, confidence, and depth without saying a word. Here's the part most men miss. Her slight tension is not a wall meant to keep you out forever. It's a gate she's watching carefully. She is assessing. She is feeling. She is asking herself questions she hasn't verbalized yet. Why do I feel different around him? Why do I care how I sound? Why am I more aware of myself right now? Those questions don't appear in her mind unless you've already made an impact. That is reality. Don't downplay it. Don't rush it. You must let it unfold at its natural pace. Contrast this with how she behaves around others. With them, she's easy, predictable, relaxed. With you, there's energy, not chaos. Energy. A slight nervousness mixed with curiosity. A careful balance between openness and protection. That balance is the sign. That is emotional involvement trying to regulate itself. Be patient intelligence here. Men who panic at this stage either pull away completely or try to push too hard for validation. Both moves break the connection. Don't do that. Stay consistent. Stay warm. Stay unshaken. That steadiness allows her nervous system to settle, and when it does, attraction deepens naturally. If you want to attract women in a lasting way, you must learn to respect these subtle signals. Not everything important comes wrapped in clear words. Some of the strongest signs live in body language, tone, and small behavioral shifts. That is why older, more grounded men often have an advantage. They don't need constant reassurance. They don't chase clarity. They observe patterns. They trust what they see. That calm observation is a core trait of a high-value man, and it amplifies masculine energy without effort. Be aware of this too. When she guards herself slightly, she is protecting something valuable. Her feelings, her expectations, her vulnerability. People protect what matters. They don't protect what they feel nothing for. So when you notice her being a bit more careful around you, don't interpret it as distance. Interpret it as significance. That awareness changes how you show up. You speak with intention. You listen fully. You don't rush moments. You let silence exist without filling it with insecurity. That is how you attract women who are emotionally engaged, not just momentarily interested. Remember this line and carry it with you. People don't build walls around people who don't matter. They don't shift their behavior for people who don't affect them. If she's different with you, you've already crossed an invisible threshold. Be worthy of that space. Be steady. Be present. That is not about tactics. That is about character. And when character meets attraction, the connection doesn't need to be forced. It grows on its own, guided by patience, awareness, and the quiet confidence of a man who understands what he brings into the room. Sign number 6, she tests you. Sign number 6 is the moment most men misunderstand, misjudge, and often fail, because this is where attraction silently reveals itself through pressure, not words, and the pressure looks like testing. She may suddenly mention another man in passing, not to provoke jealousy, but to observe your inner stability. She may cancel plans at the last minute, not because she doesn't care, but because she wants to see if your world collapses without her. She may grow distant without explanation, not as a game, but as a mirror, watching closely to see whether you chase, complain, or remain centered. This is not manipulation. This is assessment. Women do not test men to control them. They test men to understand them. She is reading your emotional posture the same way an experienced investor reads the market. Calm means confidence. Reaction means uncertainty. Strength is quiet. Panic is loud. When you react emotionally, you hand over leverage without realizing it. When you stay composed, you communicate power without saying a word. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is what she is searching for, whether consciously or not. In modern life, especially in a world of endless options, fast communication, and constant validation through screens, emotional steadiness has become rare, and rarity creates value. Men who over-explain, overreact, or seek reassurance reveal insecurity even if their intentions are pure. Men who pause, breathe, and stay grounded project certainty, even in silence. This is old Stoic wisdom applied to modern relationships. This is not about pretending not to care. It is about caring without losing control. That is Stoicism win in real time. When she mentions another man and you smile calmly, change the subject, or respond with relaxed confidence, you signal that your self-worth does not depend on comparison. When she cancels plans and you respond with understanding and continue living your life fully, you show that your purpose stands firm with or without immediate validation. When she pulls back and you do not chase, but instead remain consistent, respectful, and composed, you demonstrate an iron mind. Women notice this instantly, even if they never verbalize it. Your reaction becomes the message. Your stillness becomes the answer. Your emotional discipline becomes the attraction. As Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." When your life has direction, when your purpose is anchored, tests lose their power over you. This is why men who master themselves often feel chased rather than chasing. They are not desperate for outcomes. They are grounded in identity. This approach is not coldness. It is clarity. It is emotional leadership without force. In a time where many men are emotionally reactive due to stress, work pressure, financial responsibility, and the noise of modern society, developing this inner calm separates you instantly. You do not need tricks. You need alignment. You do not need strategies. You need presence. When you stop seeking approval, approval often follows. When you stop proving, proof appears. This is how old Stoic wisdom becomes a living advantage today. This is how Stoicism win shows up in dating, relationships, and life. Control your reactions. Control your pace. Control your narrative. Every test is an invitation to rise, not react. Every moment of silence is a chance to show maturity, not anxiety. Build your iron mind through discipline, routine, physical strength, and mental clarity, and relationships stop feeling confusing. They become simple. Calm attracts, stability reassures, confidence leads. Remember this, she is not testing you to fail you. She is testing you to see if you are safe to trust, safe to respect, and safe to desire. Pass the test by staying yourself, grounded, calm, and unwavering. This is old Stoic wisdom. This is Stoicism win. This is the iron mind in action. If this hit home, don't just watch, act. Drop a comment right now and declare it. I stay calm, I stay solid, I don't chase. Like this video, subscribe for more sharp psychology insights, and remember, when she tests you, it's not rejection, it's evaluation. Stay centered and you pass without saying a word. Sign number 7, she reacts emotionally to your attention or lack of it. Sign number 7 cuts deeper than most people realize, and it's often misunderstood because it shows up quietly, not dramatically. She reacts emotionally to your attention or to the sudden absence of it, and that reaction tells a story words never will. When you are present, when you lean in, listen closely, respond with warmth, or simply make space for her, you'll notice a shift that's hard to fake. Her energy lifts, her replies come faster, her tone softens, her expressions grow lighter, and there's a subtle glow that wasn't there before, not because she's performing, but because emotional safety has been activated. That is how female psychology often reveals attachment before intention is ever admitted. Now pay attention to the contrast, because contrast is where truth lives. When you pull back slightly, when life gets busy, when your message is slow or your focus drifts elsewhere, her mood changes in small but telling ways. She may grow quieter, less expressive, slightly distant, or gently irritable without fully knowing why. And no, this isn't about control or neediness. It's about emotional calibration. Don't dismiss this. Don't rush to label it. Be observant instead. This emotional sensitivity means your presence carries weight in her inner world, and weight only exists where thought already lives. Someone who isn't thinking about you doesn't feel a shift when you step away, doesn't register the temperature change when attention cools, and doesn't subconsciously adjust their emotional state based on your availability. That is one of the most overlooked psychology tricks when it comes to attraction, because men are often taught to look for bold signals, while female psychology frequently communicates through emotional responsiveness rather than direct declaration. Understand this clearly. She is not reacting to what you say, she is reacting to how connected she feels to you in that moment, and connection is the quiet foundation of how to fall in love, long before romance is named. Be steady. Be intentional. Notice patterns, not moments. One warm interaction means nothing on its own, but repeated emotional uplift when you engage, followed by subtle deflation when you don't, reveals a nervous system that has started to associate you with comfort, interest, and emotional reward. You must recognize that this isn't conscious strategy on her part. Most of the time, she doesn't even realize it's happening. Her emotions are simply responding to perceived closeness, and that response is automatic. That is why small changes in your behavior create noticeable shifts in hers. Don't test this recklessly. Don't disappear to provoke a reaction. Be grounded, not performative. The goal isn't to manipulate, it's to understand. Real confidence comes from clarity, not games. When you see this pattern, it means she's already investing emotionally, even if she hasn't said a word about it. This is where many men misread the moment and either overstep or retreat entirely. Don't do either. Stay calm. Stay consistent. Let her feel safe in your presence, because safety is the soil where attraction deepens. These are psychology tricks only in the sense that psychology explains them. They aren't tricks to exploit. They're signals to respect. Female psychology responds to emotional rhythm, not pressure, and when your rhythm affects hers, you've already crossed an invisible threshold. Remember this: how to fall in love isn't about grand gestures or clever lines, it's about becoming emotionally significant in someone's daily experience. If your attention changes her emotional weather, she is thinking about you more than she lets on. That is not imagination. That is evidence. Don't rush it. Don't ignore it. Be aware. Be present. Let connection grow naturally, because when emotions start syncing this way, attraction is already doing its quiet work, guided by the same psychology tricks, female psychology patterns, and timeless truths about how to fall in love that have always mattered, even when no one says them out loud. Hey, my friend, thanks for staying with me till the end. Let me leave you with something simple but powerful. Don't force clarity. Don't chase answers. Don't pressure her for reassurance. Instead, trust the signs you're already seeing, and more importantly, trust yourself. Here's the truth most men miss. A man who can sit calmly in uncertainty without anxiety, without rushing, is rare. And that calm confidence is exactly what draws a woman in. When you're grounded, present, and not desperate for control, her mind naturally keeps coming back to you. So my sincere advice to you is this: slow down. Stay centered. Focus on becoming emotionally steady instead of seeking validation. When you do that, attraction happens quietly, but powerfully. If this helped you see things differently, drop a comment with the word aware. And don't forget to subscribe, because in the next video, I'll show you exactly how to turn her curiosity into real action. Take care and trust the process.